that. Okay, I still can see that.
Which one is it? Yeah, I'm ready for 5v6. I don't know, you know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even have a rider. My mother car. Sure. No. Yes. I was supposed to be back there. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I plan to do. So I'm going to go down tonight.
So I look at it.
Yeah, I'm going to go down tonight. 2.
But I see. I was not in agreement with Palestine. The ecumenical money. A particular agreement that you. Or you have like some words about the various aspects of the theory.
We can do audio tests. Cameraman, Demi, you can focus, camera, share, spotlight screen. Okay, lights. I'm seeing myself pretty dark. Okay, all right. Coming on, lights coming on. Testing, 1, 2, testing. 1, 1, 1, testing, testing. Member states, you let us know if you're hearing us loud and clear. Testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we're hearing you.
Grenada is hearing you quite well, Mr.
Joyce, you
Ernest.
getting us okay? Yeah. Joyce, audio going out? Yeah, audio going out? Yes? What's that? I didn't hear you. Okay, well, at least if we get one country to just indicate. Can we have one member state to come on camera and audio? Just indicate that they're hearing us. You spotlighting anyone, Denny? You seen anyone coming in?
Mr. Ernest, we can hear you from Grenada.
We can also hear you from
I'm
St.
not seeing
Vincent.
anyone coming in.
See, Mr. on camera. Oh, there we are. Can you see me? I'm paused. Oh, St.
Mr.
Vincent.
Ernest? So the Zoom master has gone ahead and spotlighted in confirmation, but can you hear us?
If it's St. Vincent you're speaking to, yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
Thanks kindly.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Daddy. Not too far.
Madam President. Good. Any more? But I still call you Madam President. That's all right. I still call you. All right, good. Hang on. All right, you okay? Yeah. Lucky you.
Yes.
All right.
But lunch. You look at my. No. But you should be lunch.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can I invite everyone to please take your seats? His Excellency, well, their Excellencies are on their way and they're expected shortly. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Green.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
false alarm. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please stand for the arrival of their excellencies, Sir Cyril Errol Charles, Governor General of St. Lucia, and Lady Charles. The two seats in the back.
Honorable Chief Justice and Justices, this special sitting of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court now stands open. All persons have business in this court, Jonah, and they shall be heard. God save the King and his honorable court.
This form. Yeah.
What would the protocol, if anything, since next? Courtesy.
Michel. Do I just start or do you say something? Welcome everyone to this special sitting to mark the retirement of His Lordship, the Honorable Mario Michel, Acting Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. His Lordship, the Honorable Mario Michel, Chief Justice Acting of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Justices of Appeal, Judges and Masters of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. His Excellency, Mr. Cyril Errol Charles, Governor General of St. Lucia and Lady Charles. His Excellency, Sir Rodney Williams, Governor General of Antigua and Barbuda. And Her Excellency, Miss Sylvanie Burton, President of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Retired judges of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. The Honorable Mr. Leslie Mordesir, Attorney General of St. Lucia. Mr. Dasreen Green, Director of Public Prosecutions, St. Lucia. And Mr. Christopher Nelson Casey, Director of Public Prosecutions, Grenada. Solicitors General of each of the other OECS member states and territories. Mr. Dwight Lay, General Counsel of the OECS Commission. Mrs. Michel John Tibbles, Chief Registrar, and Ms. Daniela Chambers, Deputy Chief Registrar of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Mr. Daniel Francis, Registrar of the High Court of Justice, St. Lucia, and registrars, deputy registrars, and assistant registrars of the High Court of each of the other OECS member states and territories. Mr. Gregory Gerard, Court Administrator, and Mr. Francis Letang, Deputy Court Administrator of the Court's headquarters, and Court Administrators of each of the High Court offices of the OECS member states and territories. Learned members of the Inner Bar and Outer Bar of each of the OECS member states and territories. Staff of the Court's headquarters and court offices in each of the OECS member states and territories, and specially invited guests, good afternoon. As indicated before, we are here to pay tribute to the Chief Justice Acting, Justice Mario Michel, on the occasion of his retirement. Without further ado, I will start off with the addresses from the bench, and I have the privilege of being the first one to address this gathering. For those of us who have known Chief Justice Mario Michel for a long time, the path that his career and the fact that he has excelled over the course of that career is absolutely no surprise. I met the Chief Justice in Cave Hill, Barbados in the early 1980s. And even then, it was clear that there were great things in his future. I don't think that even he, at that time, realized how much of a contribution he would make to public life and to the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Justice Mario Michel has made a stellar contribution to St. Lucia, not just through his involvement in politics, but also his involvement in the youth movement, to the Alumni Association here in St. Lucia, and of course, the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. I will not dwell on all of his achievements with respect to those aspects of his career, because I'm sure we will hear much about those things this afternoon from others. But it must be noted and applauded that he has served the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court in various capacities for 15+ years with humility and enthusiasm. Justice Michel, in his tenure as Chief Justice, has brought his own inimitable style to the position. And while we are aware that hard decisions have to be made, and Justice Michel has had to do that, he has done so with empathy and firmness, with a level of understanding and humanity, which is sometimes absent from persons in these positions. I have observed his interactions with the staff and judicial officers, and it was a breath of fresh air to see him move amongst the staff and his judicial officers. He has shown a degree of human understanding when family situations arise, and his attitude has always been family comes first. Do what you have to do with your family. The work will come later. A totally refreshing approach. Justice Michel has made the effort to bring the staff together, and not just in the work environment, but I remember well seeing him at the sports day, even though this happened prior to him being Chief Justice, marshalling the forces of the JRAs who were on his team. And I still remember him straining every muscle, coming around the track during the relay event to bring home the bacon, so to speak, for his team. There were also the staff retreats, where free discussions took place and games and entertainment was provided. I well remember that the staff had a day, a retreat, where prizes were available for various activities. And who could forget the Christmas party, where, to the surprise of all present, through his efforts, Invader provided live entertainment, much to the delight of all concerned. I pause here to say that I had no clue who Invader was. And one of my colleagues looked at me as if I had been living in a bubble somewhere for quite some time. In court, sitting with him as a young Court of Appeal judge, he was welcoming and guided me through those first few months, and that assistance and guidance has proven to be invaluable. And I know that I'm not alone in that sentiment amongst his colleagues on the bench. But I think his lasting legacy to the court would be his educational program geared to educating the general public and the wider Eastern Caribbean about the court and its functions, bringing a greater understanding of the court to the general public. He has spoken to a wide range of persons at the community college level throughout the Eastern Caribbean, and has given his support to the continuing public lecture series. It is hoped that these initiatives will be continued, and maybe, as a result of his enthusiastic support of this initiative, it may someday bear his name. And so as Justice Michel bows out of his judicial robes, he is retiring from the bench. He is not, however, retiring from life. I am sure he will not fade into the sunset without more. I am sure that he will still have much to contribute to St. Lucia, and by extension, not just the Eastern Caribbean, but to the wider Caribbean as a whole. On behalf of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, the staff of the headquarters of the court, our fellow judges, both of the High Court and the Court of Appeal, we say a heartfelt thank you to you, Justice Michel, for your years of dedicated service to the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Good luck and Godspeed in the next adventure that you will embark upon. I know it will be as exciting and fulfilling as the chapter which is about to end. And I will end with two little sayings. May your past be a pleasant memory, your future filled with delight and mystery, and your now a glorious moment that fills your life with deep contentment. And finally, a little humor. Say goodbye to the tension and hello to your pension. We all wish you well. We all wish you and your family well. Enjoy your retirement to the fullest. Enjoy your family and friends, and enjoy those things which you never had the time to do before. Once more, may God bless you and your family and your future endeavors. I will now invite Justice of Appeal, the Honorable Justice Vicky Ann Ellis, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Justice of Appeal, Price Finley. I'm told that there's just one small correction that we would make to the protocol list, and I will do so before gratefully adopting it. We wish to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Sir Cyril Errol Charles, Governor General of St. Lucia, as well as Lady Charles. Having gratefully adopted the protocol which has been established, I also, for the avoidance of doubt, wish to indicate that I personally share and heartily endorse the sentiments expressed by my sister Justice of Appeal, Price Finley. And I am grateful for the opportunity to add to these sentiments and to express my own personal note of gratitude to Acting Chief Justice Michel, who demits office after a momentous judicial career in the Eastern Caribbean. Special sittings which celebrate the retirement of a brother judge bring both joy and sadness. The joy is celebrating his successful fulfillment of his oath of office. As he retires, we can look back and take pride in the work and contributions which Justice Michel has made as a High Court judge, as an appellate judge, and as Acting Chief Justice. The sadness stems from parting with our brother and colleague, acknowledging the vital role which he played over a judicial career which spanned some 16 years. Justice Michel, your intelligence, competence, and integrity is reflected in a long series of cases in which you rendered decisions and judgments. However, it is your humanity which we will miss most. Your wit and your sense of humor, which you were never reluctant to share, often made long days on the bench bearable. We would have witnessed you bring in well-needed levity on numerous occasions, and we appreciated it, even when we happened to be the brunt of the joke. On a personal note, I wish to thank you for your loyalty to the court and to the region. Few people would be aware that when you consented to assume the role of Acting Chief Justice, your health was not 100%, and you were in considerable pain. It never occurred to you to shirk the responsibility, notwithstanding the very short notice. Instead, you braced your knees, you tugged at the fragile strings, and hefted this court onto your back, ensuring that we had the stability and consistency, which is so critical. Such dedication demonstrates your lifelong commitment to the rule of law, to preserving justice for the people of this region and ensuring success and longevity of this most vital third co-equal arm of the governments of the 9 member states and territories which make up this court. It could not have been easy for you. And we know that you would have made untold personal sacrifices. And yet, you not only did the job commendably, but you made it yours, creating a legacy, by engaging the community outreach programs aimed at educating the public about the court and its work. I have no doubt that the Justice in School tours of schools of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, member states and territories, designed to empower students of all ages with the knowledge of the Eastern Caribbean judiciary, will bear valuable fruit in the future, as will the Youth Leaders Symposium recently held in St. Lucia. As advertised, this early interaction with students can only help shape a positive perception of the judiciary and dispel the myths associated with the legal system, ultimately strengthening public trust and confidence in the judiciary while enhancing its public image. We are deeply grateful for that initiative. The role which this court plays in our 9 member states and territories cannot be overstated. World Bank reports have for many years made clear the importance of well-functioning courts to strengthening the investment climate, ultimately reducing poverty and boosting shared prosperity. So much so that indicators of court performance as well as business community perceptions of trust in the courts are now part of the World Bank country-level assessment. The success of this region, therefore, depends on the success of the court system. It is a fact which cannot be lost on our government leaders. It certainly was not lost on you, Justice Michel, and we thank you for your dedication to the court and your willingness to serve. Occasions like this afford us an opportunity to renew our commitment to ensuring the success and longevity of the court. It is hoped that we will be joined in this by all those whose task it is to ensure that the court has the requisite leadership needed to stay and keep it on its course. Justice Michel, your colleagues will remember you fondly, and we will miss you. You have been open, patient, compassionate, dedicated, and faithful. And because this is a milestone which is deserving of a blessing, I offer this very humble prayer. I pray that Almighty God will continue to bless you during this next phase of your life. I pray that His presence will be with you as you choose new paths and explore new horizons. I pray that He will keep you vigorous and robust in body, mind, soul, and spirit. I pray that God will open new doors of service that will satisfy your desire to give and that will make a lasting difference in our world. May you find receptive hearts and minds for the wisdom that you have to offer, and may you be blessed with a strong network of friends and family to enjoy the journey that lies ahead. I pray not only that God will bless your future labors with success, but that your work here will continue to flourish in your absence. Finally, on behalf of my colleagues who are not present here and myself, I wish you Godspeed. And once again, thank you very, very much for the last 16 years of friendship and collegiality. All the best to you in your retirement.
Thank you, Justice of Appeal Ellis. I now invite Her Ladyship, the Honorable Justice Esco Henry, to address the court.
Thank you, Justice Price Finley. I would wish, like my sister, Justice Ellis, to adopt the protocol list, but wish to single out and recognize His Excellency, Mr. Cyril Errol Charles, the Governor General of St. Lucia, and Lady Charles. And I think it would be remiss of me not to recognize in the courtroom, such as it is today, Mrs. Michel and Justice Michel's two children.
And the family, yeah.
Like my sisters who preceded me, I am honored to pay tribute to outgoing Chief Justice, Mr. Mario Michel, at the cusp of his transitioning from an illustrious period of service as a judge of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court to what I am sure will be a productive and rewarding retirement, irrespective of his future endeavors. The numerous judgments that Chief Justice Michel has crafted will for eternity bear eloquent testimony to the breadth of his knowledge of and expertise in the application of the legal principles that form the bedrock of the common law and civil law traditions in our region. Permit me for a bit to reminisce on my first encounter with him. I will never forget that incident many moons ago on the idyllic island of Antigua, when I, for the very first time, appeared in his chambers during his stint there as a High Court judge. I recall vividly how he dealt with the fact that I had made an error in calculating a mathematical sum, and as a result, entered an incorrect figure on one of the documents filed in the matter. Needless to say, I could not proceed and had to apply for an adjournment to put things right. To my chagrin, my deficits in mathematics accompanied me to chambers on the next occasion. However, what was undoubtedly one of the most embarrassing incidents in my career was assuaged by the professionalism and equanimity with which Justice Michel handled this incident. In the ensuing years, as I became more acquainted with him, and in particular since last year when he assumed the post of Acting Chief Justice, I have witnessed his unwavering commitment to the rule of law and promotion of access to justice in the states and territories served by the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, and I have been a benefactor of his generosity of spirit and empathy. He is a practitioner and defender of the ethics that are hallmarks of the highest ideals of the legal profession, and he has earned my eternal respect. Permit me to mention, however, a small but very important part of the work that he embarked on over the last year in driving the court's public awareness agenda with emphasis on the youth. Without fear of contradiction, in my opinion, as mature and maturing democracies, the stature of these states and territories that are served by the court will in large measure be influenced by the level of the public's actual familiarity with the administration of justice system and the role of the judiciary, excuse me, as an equal arm of government alongside the executive and legislative arms. The efforts by the Honorable Chief Justice have been timely and from all accounts well received. And I take this opportunity to applaud him publicly. In closing, I wish to recite 4 verses of a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow that speak to the unending pursuits of great men and women, even into retirement, and I believe, no doubt, will haunt and pursue Justice Michel. The poem is entitled A Psalm of Life, and these are the 3 verses. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle. Be a hero in the strife. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. And finally, Justice Michel, I pray that Almighty God will continue to reward you with benefits immeasurable, and not only to you, but to Mrs. Michel and your children, and that you will enjoy a very long, rewarding retirement full of activities, which I hope will see you sitting with us, your colleagues, from time to time in this forum. May God give you speed in all of your future endeavors. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be His Lordship, the Honorable Justice Reginald Armour, Justice of Appeal, acting.
Thank you very much, Justice Price Finley. And may I acknowledge and adopt, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies all, the salutations which have been expressed by my colleagues who have preceded me. May I also adopt with fervent endorsement the remarks which have already been made by my sisters in salutation of Acting Chief Justice Mario Michel. And indeed, may I say this, that in reflecting on the remarks that I would make today, as we bear witness to the challenging of the parameters by which our civilized world is redefining its codes of conduct and the relationships of sovereign nations with other sovereign nations, and indeed the relationships of those nations to citizens of other nations. As we assemble to salute the contributions of Acting Chief Justice Mario Michel on his retirement, it is apt to remind ourselves of Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, proclaimed on the 10th of December, 1948, which provides, and I quote, "Everyone is entitled in full equality to a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal." And that canon of judicial conduct and that mandate of judicial mission is and has been epitomized by the Honorable Mario Michel, our retiring Chief Justice. We are privileged today to assemble to salute with gratitude and to acknowledge with regret the retirement of the Honorable Mr. Justice Mario Michel, Acting Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, whose tenure as a judge at the High Court level and the Court of Appeal, and now as Acting Chief Justice, has spanned more than a decade, as you've heard. We acknowledge with pride the qualities which he has brought to the discharge of his responsibilities as a judge serving the Eastern Caribbean, his responsibilities of Chief Justice. In that discharge of his judicial functions, Acting Chief Justice Michel epitomized the first preeminent qualification of a judge, that is to say, the ability to make independent and impartial decisions. We salute the fact that throughout, he has discharged his duty to apply the law and has served the peoples of the Eastern Caribbean without fear or favor and without regard to whether the decision is popular or not. That being the cornerstone of the rule of law to which we all adhere and which he epitomizes. Time does not, ladies and gentlemen, permit reference to all of his judgments, to all of his erudite judgments and contributions. But there is one particular judgment that I think stands tall in the context of independence and without fear or favor. And that was the judgment of the Attorney General and the Right Honorable Denzel Douglas, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, against the Honorable Sam Condor and Sean Richards, involving constitutional interpretation to address an important question of the exercise of the powers of the Governor General on the advice of the Prime Minister to appoint an Attorney General. The judgment of Justices of Appeal Mario Michel, joined in by his fellow judges, was pellucid, declaring that the language of the Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis was clear. He correctly construed the provisions of the Constitution and declared the decision of the Governor General on the advice of the Honorable Prime Minister to appoint Mr. Jason Hamilton as Attorney General as not being consistent with the enabling language of the Constitution and therefore null and void and of no effect. A fearless and very important decision that epitomizes the bedrock of the rule of law. Speaking, Acting Chief Justice, to your fearless quality, we salute you. And may I, on a personal note, say, I have had the privilege to sit with Honorable Justice Mario Michel in the 2017 period when I acted as a Court of Appeal judge, and in this more recent period in his capacity as Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean. And the qualities which everyone has so far spoken to are qualities that I would hope we can all continue to emulate, that he possesses the qualities of humility and remarkable understanding and application of the law, and the reach that he has made in the office of Chief Justice to go out into the public, to the young persons, to get them to better understand, as a public awareness mission, the role and function of our judiciary in our society. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the respect which the public has for the impartial adjudication and dispensation of justice will be measured not just by the integrity of our judges with whom I share this table, but by the contributions made by the chief administrator, such as Honorable Justice Michel, as Chief Justice, to go out there and to help to launch a public awareness program among the young people and the citizenry of the Eastern Caribbean. And I join with Justice Price Finley to hope that the legacy of what he has begun will one day carry his name in tribute to that immeasurable contribution. Acting Chief Justice Mario Michel, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today and to pay this tribute to you.
Our next speaker will be from the High Court. That is Justice Ralston Glasgow, High Court Judge situated in Grenada.
Thank you, Your Ladyship, Justice Price Finley. And with your leave, may I be permitted to adopt the protocol already established. And in that regard, allow me to recognize the presence of His Excellency, Sir Cyril Errol Charles, Governor General of St. Lucia, and Lady Charles. My lords, my ladies, on Tuesday of this week, I was steeped in the exercise that consumes most, if not all, judges.
Can you hear?
I think I'm getting a feedback from you. Can you hear me? You probably need to mute something.
No, it's not.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, is the audio any better, may I ask?
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
It's better? Yes. My lords, my ladies, on Tuesday of this week, I was steeped in the exercise that consumes most, if not all, the judges of the ECSC. I was reading and researching to write a judgment. Oftentimes, I lock the phone away or put it on silent to avoid distractions while I'm working. In the afternoon, I took a break from this exercise and looked at the phone. Justice Guilford, the senior judge in Grenada, had called me several times. I presumed that I was being called about some issue at work or to discuss a case. Alas, it was nothing of the sort. I was being informed just a few days in advance that Justice Guilford had nominated me to deliver remarks on behalf of the High Court bench of the ECSC on the retirement of no less a person than our Honorable Chief Justice, Mario Michel. Knowing myself, my instinctive response was, why me, Justice Guilford? Since, if I'm to be honest, my thought was that Justice Guilford is far more eloquent and articulate on these matters than I could ever be. But also instinctively, I immediately adjusted mentally to the task at hand, and it quickly struck me that Her Ladyship Guilford had not handed me a difficult task. This is since I do know Chief Justice Mario Michel. I have known Chief Justice Michel throughout my more than 26 years of being a lawyer and now a judge. I know him from my earliest days as an attorney at law in private practice in St. Lucia around the year 2000 and throughout the many years that I spent at the public bar before coming into judicial service. Coincidentally, I served as a Crown Counsel in Attorney General's chambers for part of the period that Justice Michel served as Minister of Education. I think that our offices were situated in the same building. Now I have the honor of serving as one of the judges under his charge as Chief Justice. So all that long history aside, what can I say about our esteemed and learned Chief Justice? I know of no better description than the phrase, greatness through service. I found a statement attributed to Albert Schweitzer, German philosopher and physician, which reads, "The purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion and the will to help others. Only then have we ourselves become true human beings," end of quote. I say that even a cursory examination of the life and work of Chief Justice Michel vindicates this statement. In preparing for this presentation, I mused on the Chief Justice's career, and it struck me that Chief Justice Michel holds the exceptional distinction of giving public service to his homeland and indeed the wider sub-region in all three branches of government: the legislature as a member of parliament, the executive as a minister of government, and at the highest level of the judicial branch of government, the office of Chief Justice. In my humble view, there can hardly be greater evidence of a record of service to one's fellow man in a most public fashion than such a record. A quote is attributed to former US President Woodrow Wilson, which states, quote, there's no higher religion than human service. To work for the common good is the greatest creed," end of quote. I was asked to give this presentation with the utmost scrupulous deference to time, which I fear would militate against a forensic discourse on the extensive and exemplary record of our Chief Justice's dedication to service. But I dare say that the record speaks for itself, and much of it was highlighted by the speakers preceding me. And the record indicates that from his early years, Chief Justice Michel exhibited an unstinted commitment to serving his community and his fellow man, the common good. But beyond his outstanding contribution to serving the public and his remarkable impact on our jurisprudence and the judiciary, those who know him well all concur that Chief Justice Michel is a person imbued with an innate care for humanity, always willing to listen, and willing to embrace innovation and creativeness, a man of unimpeachable integrity. He is thoughtful with an unremitting dedication to excellence. To Chief Justice Michel, as you depart from the functions attending your office, I am assured, as I'm confident as are all my colleague judges of the ECSC High Court bench, that your legacy of service to the cause of justice and indeed the cause of humanity will be celebrated for many years to come and will serve as a beacon to all about the virtues of a life committed to serving others. I've read a statement attributed to Jim Rohn, American entrepreneur and motivational speaker, which states, quote, "Whoever renders service to many puts himself in line for greatness. Great wealth, great return, great satisfaction, great reputation, and great joy," end of quote. I'm not sure about the great wealth part of that quote, since on that score, I think I've been reliably informed, and I do verily believe that judges aren't paid a great deal of money. However, I'm certain that your service to the court and to your fellow man over the years of your illustrious career has brought you and will continue to bring you great satisfaction, great reputation, and great joy. I part with these words also attributed to Albert Schweitzer. Quote, "I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. Life becomes harder for us when we live for others, but it also becomes richer and happier." On behalf of myself and my colleague judges of the ECSC High Court bench, we thank you for your dedication to the work of the judiciary and to that cause to which we as judges have all sworn our allegiance, the maintenance of the rule of law. We thank your family and your loved ones as well for supporting you and permitting you the time, energy, and resources to lend your considerable talents and gifts in service to us all. May God's richest blessings continue to be with you and your family as you embark on your future endeavors. May all you do continue to bring you joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Glasgow. We will now have addresses from the inner bar. The first being from Ms. Dancia Penn, OBEKC, the Territory of the Virgin Islands.
Lord Chief Justice, my lords, my ladies, may it please you. I greet you warmly as I do all the distinguished and honorable ladies and gentlemen assembled here. I also greet my colleagues at the bar. My Lord Chief Justice, yours has been a most illustrious career, a career which I have followed over the years, beginning at a time when we were both in service to the public in a different arena in our respective jurisdictions. You in St. Lucia, I in the Virgin Islands. And yes, we do share the distinction, if a distinction it is, of having served in all three branches of government. So while I admit surprise and regret at the news of your retirement, I am pleased to have the opportunity to say a few brief words on this important occasion. I speak on behalf of the BVI Bar Association, my law partner, Astra Penn, who has the honor of having served with you on the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, and I also speak on my own behalf. Chief Justice, yours has been a most illustrious time on the bench. From your days as a High Court judge to your inevitable elevation to the Court of Appeal, and the capstone, albeit in an acting capacity, as Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court for the last year. From my own experience, I can attest to the view of the members of the Bar of the Virgin Islands that it was always a pleasure to appear before you. I, for one, always appreciated your calm, quiet demeanor, your helpfulness to counsel, the balance and equanimity which you brought to a proceeding, your sagacity, and that was so even when I lost. Your numerous judgments are, of course, of record and an enduring part of your legacy. But for me, your initiative as Chief Justice in launching the public education campaign, your clear embrace of the youth, and your efforts to demystify the justice system is a sterling contribution to the development of our region and to ensuring access to justice. It is my sincere hope that that initiative, being as it is an important instrument of development, endures. And I am very pleased to hear Justice Price Finley, as well as Justice Amor, utter that very sentiment. I believe that it will be the sentiment of most of us. In this regard, I am pleased to say that the BVI Bar Association, represented by its president and its first vice president, was honored to be involved in a roundtable discussion with you, Chief Justice, during the sitting of the Court of Appeal here in the Virgin Islands in March. During that discussion, that roundtable, you impressed upon the bar and other stakeholders your desire to improve access to the profession and to the courts for students and other aspiring lawyers. You would be pleased to know that your suggestion has fallen on fertile ground, as I can say that this is an initiative which the BVI Bar Association is working diligently to roll out, regularly working diligently to roll out in consultation with the court and with the bench. My Lord Chief Justice, if, as it is said, life is a book of many chapters, today marks for you the closing of one chapter and the turning of the page to the next. The BVI Bar Association, the entire legal profession here in the Virgin Islands, join me, in wishing you a long, happy, and fulfilling next chapter, one which brings you and your family much happiness, much joy, much peace, and one in which you continue to contribute to humanity. My lords, my ladies, may it please you.
Thank you, Ms. Penn. We next have Mr. Dexter Theodore Casey from St. Lucia.
May it please the court, please permit me the liberty of adopting the previously established protocol, but if only to amend it slightly, to be permitted to recognize in our midst your wife and children, who I remember as very young kids when we would meet at your home to play bridge many, many moons ago. I also wish to recognize, of course, His Excellency and Lady Charles. Your Lordship, I must first apologize for the absence of our President, Mr. Ramon Ravino, who has a dislocated kneecap and is not mobile at this time. He sends his profuse apologies for his absence. It is my profound honor to stand before you today to celebrate His Lordship, the Honorable Justice Mario Michel, a jurist, a patriot, and a lifelong friend. Today, we honor a jurist whose life's work embodies the creed, fiat justitia ruat caelum. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall. To speak of the Honorable Justice Mario Michel is to speak of a man who wielded the law as a shield for principle, never a sword for power. Our bond began at the age of 4 on the sunlit steps of the St. Aloysius Roman Catholic Boys' Infant School in downtown Castries, through St. Mary's College, the St. Lucia A-Level College, the law faculty at the Cave Hill campus of the University of the West Indies, and the Hugh Wooding Law School. His Lordship's brilliance was matched only by his integrity. We shared not just classrooms, but courtrooms and even bridge tables, where his strategic mind shone. We were partners at the first ever OECS Bridge Championships held in Dominica in 1987. One memory stands apart, though. At the 1994 OECS Bridge Championships, again held in Dominica, Tropical Storm Debbie threatened St. Lucia. St. Lucia had made the final, and victory at the championships was within our reach. But His Lordship, then the Deputy Prime Minister of St. Lucia in the government of the St. Lucia Labour Party, choosing duty over glory, packed his bags, returned to St. Lucia to stand with our people, leaving me high and dry. Country first, he said, a refrain that defined his life. As a judge, His Lordship's legacy lies in his courageous fidelity to the law, even when it unsettled powerful politicians. Sadly, in these parts, fierce independence of thought by judicial officers frequently draws parochial repercussion. Sadly, it is no secret that His Lordship's elevation to the substantive post of Chief Justice has been thwarted. Under the OECS Treaty, such appointments require unanimous consent from regional leaders, which has not been forthcoming. If there are those who believe that a judge of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court should rule based on his personal political philosophy rather than out of regard for the law, they must understand that this is a Trumpish notion which must be eschewed. A system which gives a politician the ability to stand in the way of the appointment to judicial office of a deserving candidate for reasons which may or may not have anything to do with the judicial officer's competence and integrity must be flawed. His Lordship's blocked ascension is not a failure of Caribbean jurisprudence, but a call to reform it. If we examine the quality of His Lordship's judgment, we will see that his judgments have helped to shape our legal landscape. In Kardisha Jawahir and Davis Jawahir, he preserved equity's role in our civil code, distinguishing breach of trust from delict and safeguarding beneficiaries' rights. His dissent in Ferdinand James and Clanviron defended St. Lucia's civil code against implied repeal, a stance rooted in reverence for legislative intent. And in Travis Augustine and Chalk Estates, he upheld procedural fairness, declaring that even undefended claims demand evidentiary rigor, a testament to his belief that justice cannot sacrifice principle for expediency. Beyond the bench, His Lordship founded the National Youth Council of St. Lucia in 1985, continually mentored the youth, upheld justice, and his life has served as a model worthy of emulation. To my friend of 60 years, you are a living testament to the words of Cicero, and I quote, "The welfare of the people is the ultimate law," end quote. As you retire, may you find joy in the quiet moments, the rustle of a well-shuffled deck of cards, the weight of a leather-bound tome, the laughter of grandchildren. Your legacy, a tapestry of principle, equity, and unyielding courage. And those will guide future generations. May it please the court.
Thank you, Mr. Theodore. We next have Mr. Kendrickson Kentish Casey from Antigua and Barbuda.
Afternoon, my Lord Chief Justice, Justices of Appeal, Judges and Masters of the High Court. Please permit me to adopt the protocol already observed. It is a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Antigua and Barbuda Bar Association to participate in one of the great traditions of the bar. Since joining the profession, I have now seen 6 of our Chief Justices retire. However, the retirement of Chief Justice Mario Michel has hit some bitter Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, the retirement of Chief Justice Mario Michel has hit some bittersweet tone. Bittersweet because we are all happy to thank him for his significant contribution to the judiciary. And yet we are all sad to see him exit this particular scene in the grand drama of life. When then Justice Mario Michel arrived in Antigua in 2009, we were then in the peak of the CPR 2000. In Antigua, we had a new and modern High Court building, and the profession had swollen in numbers, and there was a lot of work to do. Justice Michel fulfilled his obligation with distinction. In my view, great judges are made not by the universities and law schools which they attended, nor by the brilliance in forming their judgments. Great judges are made by the homes in which they were raised. During his stint in Antigua, Justice Michel impressed the bar and the public with his professionalism, but also by his cordiality. He would often be the first to greet you. There was never any of this awkward head nodding we sometimes encounter with the judiciary. And he was also known and appreciated for his politeness and punctuality. This was a marked difference to what we had encountered with other judges. But more importantly, Justice Michel listened. I recall appearing before him in a probate action. We were not successful on that occasion, but my client, although disappointed, made a point of saying to me, "But Mr. Kentish, at least he listened to my side." This was common in many of the trials in which Justice Michel presided. The calm, the balance which he brought to those proceedings contributed greatly to public confidence in the judicial system. He always allowed the parties and counsel to advance their cases. I also recall one criminal defense lawyer wore down the jury with his overbearing cross-examination. Justice Michel very patiently allowed defense counsel to conduct his case as he saw fit. However, a quiet message was sent to defense counsel, and he avoided making that particular tactical error ever again. So smooth were the trials that took place before Justice Michel that in Antigua he soon earned the nickname Justice Chocolate. In Antigua and Barbuda, as well as Anguilla and Grenada, Justice Michel did many judicial review claims. He was consistent in following the law, and at the same time, there was never any question that the court could ever allow the executive to unlawfully exceed the limits of its authority. In my experience, judges are most cautious in family matters, particularly cases of child custody. Justice Michel always managed to seamlessly resolve such disputes again by listening and placing the best interests of the children at the forefront of his deliberation. However, it was in his interpretation and application of the CPR that Justice Michel made his most significant contribution. I will leave the statistical analysis to others, but many of his decisions on the CPR are cited by counsel because of the clear and consistent expressions on the law. It is unfortunate that Chief Justice Michel has not had the opportunity to shape the court with his imprimatur. We would certainly have loved to have him on the bench for a much longer period. We will not forget, however, his efforts, as other speakers have indicated, to bring the young people within the jurisdiction to a better understanding of the legal system and our courts. I must say that I agree with our colleague, Mr. Theodore King's counsel, that perhaps it is time for us as a collective body to not just lobby, but to agitate for change in our constitutional arrangements for the appointment and retirement age of our Chief Justices. Nevertheless, my Lord Chief Justice, on behalf of the Antigua and Barbuda Bar, I offer to you our sincere thanks for your service, and we extend best wishes to you and your family as you proceed into retirement from the bench. I am certain that your immediate future is not limited to the garden, and that you will continue to labor in the service of humanity. May it please the court.
Thank you, Mr. Kentish. From the Ottawa, from Grenada, Lady Avril Truckman Joseph.
Thank you, Your Ladyship. Your Lordship, Honorable Michel, Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, and all Honorable Justices of Appeal, High Court judges and masters of this court, Excellency Sir Errol Charles, Governor General of St. Lucia, and Lady Charles. We, of course, too, recognize the family, the supportive family of our Chief Justice, and all of our esteemed colleagues and stakeholders gathered this afternoon. I join with President Paul, executive and general members of the Grenada Bar Association on the occasion of this special sitting to mark the retirement of His Lordship Justice Michel as Chief Justice of our Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. I will, of course, contribute to the many vignettes that are testimonies of the achievements of His Lordship's illustrious legal career thus far. For us here at the Grenada Bar, it is most noteworthy that as we reviewed his lordship's life, that what emerged as most significant to us was his characteristic gift for leadership. Indeed, he emerged from an era when gifted young minds across this Caribbean region coalesced through their activism, striving for the realization of the ideals of independence, nationalism, and people's empowerment. So driven, our Lord Chief Justice, you graduated eventually, having taken another start, but you did graduate from the Faculty of Law of the University of the West Indies and the Hugh Wooding Law School, and you would have been called to the Bar of St. Lucia in October 1984. Having entered private practice with your independent spirit, you quickly moved to establishing your own law firm of Michel and Company. It is very noteworthy from our bar's point of view that your lordship was very active in civil society, becoming the founding president of the St. Lucia's National Youth Council in 1985, president of the St. Lucia Guild of Graduates in 1991, and as bar members, we note the youngest president of the St. Lucia Bar Association in 1996. It would therefore not have been very surprising to your colleagues and the citizens of St. Lucia that your lordship was elected to serve as the parliamentary representative of Grosy Lake and became a minister of the St. Lucian government from 1997 until 2007. Signature achievements included the National Football and Track and Field Stadium, the Beausejour Cricket Ground, universal secondary education, and the abolition of the shift system had been in place for over 25 years at the largest primary school in St. Lucia at that time. Following your lordship's return to private practice, you did indeed accept an acting appointment as a High Court judge of our Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. And it was very striking to us here in Grenada that you were appointed to serve right here in Grenada from the 1st of February to the 31st of August, 2009. Of course, the rest is history, as we saw you elevate to the Court of Appeal in 2012, and then, of course, to your appointment, my Lord Chief Justice, on the 5th of May, 2024. For us at the bar, your service to the OECS bar associations, and of course, through its courts, helped to shape the jurisprudence of the Eastern Caribbean and beyond. We will remember you, my Lord Chief Justice, for your quiet, calm, judicial demeanor, which my learned senior from the British Virgin Islands, Casey Penn, did refer. And more striking to us too, as we would have appeared before you or heard you give your annual reports, was that you always had a smile in waiting. We acknowledge you as a legacy bearer whose leadership as Chief Justice was especially exhibited through your thrust towards public legal education with an emphasis on youth and community outreach. You did what you do best, Chief Justice, empower others. This especially resonates with us at the Grenada Bar. We who are the parent bar of the Sir Archibald Ned and similar regional lectures, we embrace these hallmarks of civic engagements which demystify our own legal profession and legal sector so that citizens have a greater understanding of the law and the role of our judges and our practitioners. Indeed, we were most encouraged and happy to see you visit our own T.A. Marischal College as part of this trust. As you continue on, Chief Justice, we remember and I share the words of John Maxwell, which we believe epitomize your work, starting from your own civic engagements as a bar member, a lawyer, all the way through to becoming Chief Justice, when he said, a community helps us go farther. And when it is a community of talented, like-valued, complementary people, we can go faster. This is true for communities in St. Lucia, as for communities across the OECS and the wider Caribbean. It is this spirit, my lord, that you have brought to the legal system of the Eastern Caribbean, which serves as an inspiration of your life's work to us collectively to continue to strive for the sustainable development of our region, for fearless advocacy and the delivery of the rule of law. My Lord Chief Justice, as yourself and following on from the retirement of many recent resignations and retirements of senior judges, we are assured that as you pass this judicial baton, that you will surely receive another well-deserved one. We pray that our collective prayers and petitions for your continued blessings, my Lord, for your good health, for a happy family life in your retirement, that you will have a little more time for cricket and bridge. And however, we expect that through our prayers, we will have a little more time for continued productive regional contributions. May our petitions be recorded in heaven and in the court's records of today's proceedings. May it please you, my Lord Chief Justice. May it please you, my lords, my ladies.
Our next speaker is Miss Merlene Barrett from Anguilla.
May it so please the court, Honorable Chief Justice, Mr. Mario Michel acting, and the Honorable Justices of Appeal of the Court of Appeal and the High Court of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, I crave leave to adopt the protocol that has already been established. Permit me also to recognize the presence of the Governor General of St. Lucia, Sir Cyril Errol Charles and Lady Charles, and also our resident High Court Judge, Mr. Justice Moise. I am honored to address this court on behalf of the Anguilla Bar Association to bid an affectionate farewell to our Chief Justice on the eve of his demitting office as Chief Justice of our beloved court. As we have heard from the previous speakers, your Lordship joined the court in September 2009 after an illustrious career in public life and at the private bar. And he served this court faithfully and with distinction for over 15 years. However, prior to joining the court, your Lordship acted as a High Court judge in Anguilla. And as you all know, Anguilla is the unofficial training ground for all those who are aspiring to the top echelons of the judiciary. And I pause here to say to all Justice Moise, please do not think about that just yet. I had the privilege of appearing before his Lordship while he was here on his acting appointment. And in those appearances, those were always very memorable and pleasant. Your Lordship's love and understanding of the law was quite impressive, but it was his care and concern for young counsel that made him remarkable to us at the Anguilla Bar. I could not, in the time allotted, outline the many ways that his Lordship contributed to the development of the young practitioners in Anguilla. So I've chosen to touch on two of those ways. First, I want to look at his unwavering commitment to maintaining the integrity of the court process. And secondly, the way he showed that courtesy and dignity are important for any efficient and effective court operation. In terms of the integrity of the court, your lordship was always keen to ensure that the integrity of the court was never compromised and that its processes were never abused. I can recall in one matter, myself and another colleague were up against a very senior practitioner on an injunction application. Given that it was a family dispute, your lordship wanted to know whether settlement had been explored, and if so, what was the outcome? My co-counsel, who had the lead at the time, informed the court that settlement was not very likely because opposing counsel kept advancing positions that were both contrary to the law and to the evidence, and that these positions were being advanced simply because his client wanted him to. As a result, she concluded that lack of client management was the reason that the matter could not be settled. Opposing counsel did not agree, and he did not mince words. He essentially said to junior counsel that she was talking rubbish, and he had practiced in the law courts many, many years, and he has never heard of a thing called client management. After listening to both sides, your lordship, in his characteristic calm voice, said something to this effect. It is the duty of counsel when a client comes with his or her predicament to properly advise them in terms of where they stand under the law. It is therefore not an efficient use of the court's process for any counsel to advance positions that he or she knows is without merit simply because the client wants them advanced. Determining what arguments should be advanced is the duty of counsel, not the client. And if the arguments are being advanced simply because the client wants them and not because there is any merit in them, then the client is managing the case, not the counsel. As junior members at the bar, we were grateful to your lordship for how he was able to quietly underscore the importance of counsel playing his or her part in the case management process, which sometimes meant managing the client. We felt especially vindicated when the court ruled in our favor on the application. The way your lordship handled this matter showed the importance he placed not only on ensuring the integrity of the process, but also to show the second point I wish to make, which is the role that courtesy and dignity plays in the process. Your lordship left Anguilla shortly thereafter, and I was never privileged to appear before him again, as I did not have many matters before the Court of Appeal. However, in speaking to one of my colleagues who appeared regularly before the Court of Appeal, he assured me that the courtesy and dignity that I spoke of continued to be one of the distinguishing features of your lordship's legacy. He then recounted an incident that he said will forever be etched in his mind, and which he thought made the point about courtesy and dignity. He said he had an employment appeal matter before the Court of Appeal, and he felt that he had this case in the bag. He said he was making what he believed to be his knockout arguments. Then your lordship looked at him with the usual quiet manner and said, "Counsel, you have climbed admirably, but I think that is as far as you're going to go." He then explained why his arguments could not succeed. There is so much to be said about your lordship's contribution to the court, especially in how he set out to make the court more accessible to all in the various community engagements that were undertaken. All this was possible because of his able leadership. We are grateful to his lordship for his foresight in this regard and his willingness to step outside of these hallowed halls and into the community and among the people we are called to serve. Following his lead, the association, the Anguilla Bar Association, in collaboration with the High Court and the sixth form students of the Albina Lakehouse Comprehensive School, held a mock trial last week, Thursday, as part of its public awareness campaign to demystify the court and its processes. It is our hope to make this an annual event. However, nobody would be able to achieve what your lordship has achieved without the love and support of family and friends. To his wife and children, and to his family and friends, we owe a debt of gratitude for the sacrifices you've made over the years. Your loss, their loss over the 15 years was our gain. Therefore, on behalf of the members of the Anguilla Bar Association, my colleagues in the Bar Council, and on my own behalf, I wish his lordship happiness, peace, and good health. May love and laughter light your days and warm your heart and home. May good and faithful friends be yours wherever you may roam. May peace and plenty bless your world and joy that long endures. May all life's passing seasons bring the best to you and yours. Thank you for your faithful service, and may the good Lord continue to bless and keep you always. May it so please the court.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. We now have Mrs. Noelise Knight Didier from the Commonwealth of Dominica.
High Court judges and masters, the very distinguished guests and officials as mentioned by her ladyship, Justice of the Peace Finley at the commencement of this proceeding. My colleagues at the bar, I bring warm greetings on behalf of the members of the Dominica Bar.
Yeah, we are not hearing you very well. I don't know if it's a problem on your end, but we are not hearing you very well at all. It's still rather muted. Seeing you. Well, we will come back to, sorry. Dominica, we will go on to the following speaker and we'll come back when after that, when the technical difficulties have hopefully been sorted out. Thank you. Yeah. We will now hear from Mr. Jean Kelsick from the island of Montserrat.
Thank you, my lady. May it please the court, in adopting the protocol already established, it is a pleasure for me on behalf of the Montserrat Bar to address this special sitting of the court to mark the retirement of His Lordship, the Honorable Mr. Mario Michel, Chief Justice. Let me say at the outset that I was sorry to learn that His Lordship is retiring so soon. My contact with His Lordship has consisted primarily of appearing before him for a number of years now in his capacity as a Justice of Appeal. Frequently at those sittings, he presided as President of the Court. As an appellate judge, the qualities that stood out for me were his incisiveness, courtesy to counsel, easygoing manner, good sense of humor, precise diction, and quiet dignity. His Lordship took preserving the dignity of the court seriously, and rightly so. I recall a sitting in Montserrat at which a senior practitioner, now of blessed memory, who was sitting in the front row of the gallery, fell soundly and visibly asleep. When His Lordship's roving eye alighted upon my hapless colleague, a look of disapproval spread across His Lordship's face. He stopped the proceedings and, in a ringing tone, asked who the culprit was. When this failed to rouse my friend from his slumber, he had to be shaken out of it and face a gentle reprimand. I state the obvious when I say that over his long tenure on the bench, at all levels, His Lordship has made a valuable and lasting contribution to the jurisprudence of the region. I was to learn recently, though, that not all of his judgments are bulletproof. A practical and sensible judgment delivered by him as a High Court judge in the case of Keith Edwards against Eunice Edwards, in which he relied on the inherent jurisdiction of the court to break the shackles binding the joint owners of land that was relied on by me recently in the Court of Appeal, I fear did not prevail. His Lordship has enjoyed a rich and varied career as a youth activist, educator, lawyer, parliamentarian, Minister of Government, Deputy Prime Minister, international speaker and panelist, puisne and appellate judge, and finally, as Chief Justice. The quality that stands out for me in particular is his public spiritedness, something he displayed at an early age, and his ability to connect with people, especially students, and reach out to the community at large. These are admirable qualities in a judge and a great asset to bring to the bench. Having watched a number of interviews given by His Lordship as Chief Justice, his passion for interacting with youngsters and educating the general public on a variety of issues
Mr. Kelsick, you're muted. Your microphone is off.
I
Back
beg
from about 2 minutes because we missed a bit of what you said because your microphone was off.
I'm sorry that that happened. I don't know how it did. Perhaps you can help me with where I became muted.
If you can go back to, let us say, 3 or 4 sentences from where you are now.
Thank you, Mary. I will keep a close eye on my my microphone. Having watched a number of interviews given by His Lordship as Chief Justice, his passion for interacting with youngsters and educating the general public on a wide variety of issues relating to the legal system is palpable. As Chief Justice, he launched a Justice in School program involving visiting A-level students in person throughout the ECSE territories and conversations with the Chief Justice. Educate students and the public at large about the legal system and to illuminate it. His Lordship's appreciation of the importance of schooling the public about the legal system and the pivotal role played by the third arm of government, namely the judiciary, has proven prescient. Increasingly, we are witnessing worldwide the rise of authoritarian tendencies on the part of the executive branch of democratically elected governments. Constitutional norms and controls are being tested or simply ignored, and the sanctity of the rule of law is coming under increasing and, in some cases, immense pressure. This underscores the importance of educating the community about the role played by the judiciary as a branch of government and the part the citizen can play in curbing the excesses of executive government. My Lord, as you embark on yet another voyage in your life, this time to walk the path of retirement, I hope you will continue to put your fine intellect and speaking skills to good use in the public arena. On behalf of the Montserrat Bar, I wish you the very best in this, your latest odyssey. May it please the court.
Dominica, are you in a position to proceed at this point?
Yes, my lady, I believe so. Can I be heard? Am I being heard?
Very clearly.
Oh, very well. Thank you, my lord. If it pleases the court, my Lord Chief Justice Mario Michel, Justices of Appeal, High Court judges and masters, the very distinguished guests and officials, as mentioned by Her Ladyship, Justice of Appeal Price Finley, at the commencement of these proceedings, my colleagues at the bar, I bring warm greetings on behalf of the members of the Dominica Bar. My lords, we gather today, of course, out of respect and also a sense of sincere gratitude to mark the retirement of Acting Chief Justice Mario Michel. This is indeed a momentous, but yet a somber occasion, a time to reflect on the distinguished career of a jurist who has served this region with unwavering dedication, efficiency, and a brilliant mind. Acting Chief Justice Michel's tenure as Chief Justice, though short, has been marked by noteworthy achievements, and I would like, as many other speakers have before me, to highlight his commitment to public legal education. His Lordship recognized that justice is not merely dispensed within the walls of the courtroom, but it must be understood and embraced by the people it serves. A notion no doubt influenced by his Lordship's previous career path in politics, a career focused, of course, on winning the minds and hearts of the people. His Lordship's innovative approach to demystifying the operations of the court through initiatives such as a conversation with the Chief Justice, through his lecture series, and visits to tertiary education institutions across the member states, sought to foster a greater understanding of the role of the courts and of the judiciary, thereby strengthening the bonds of trust between those organs and the citizens that they serve. These initiatives have undoubtedly left an indelible mark on the legal landscape of the Eastern Caribbean. My lords, this mission of the Chief Justice, though, resonated with me personally because the Dominica Bar Association itself embarked on a similar mission of public education and outreach at the commencement of the tenure of the current executive 2 years ago. I recall when His Lordship was gracious enough to have a meeting with the executive of the Dominica Bar Association in his last visit here, where we spoke about our plans, and His Lordship informed us of his public outreach plans, and it felt as if that we were ad idem, we were in the same place. I would add, my lords, that this sort of mission is one that, thankfully, can easily be continued by Chief Justice Michel, even without the hat of Chief Justice, since His Lordship's knowledge, reputation, and dedication will, God willing, endure well beyond his retirement. My Lord Chief Justice, I can assure you that the Dominica Bar shall be one of those calling at your Lordship's door, no matter the new position that will now be embossed on that door, to seek your Lordship's collaboration in continuing our mutual mission of public legal education. My lords, Chief Justice Michel, of course, served with distinction as a Justice of Appeal and has contributed significantly to the development of our jurisprudence. In the interest of time, please permit me, my lords, to reference just 2 cases of interest, one emanating from the Commonwealth of Dominica and another with significant value for us as practitioners here. Firstly, my lords, who among the election petition practitioners and observers in the region can forget the caution issued by His Lordship in the 2012 case of Ronald Green versus Peter Sejar, when His Lordship stated in relation to the increased frequency of election petitions, while the file, and I quote, while the filing of an election petition is the right of every election candidate, those seeking elective office should be careful not to transport their electoral contests from the political platforms to the law courts, unless there is a good basis for challenging the outcome of an election. To file election petitions as a matter of course, or whenever there is a close result or there is some inconsequential or unprovable allegation of impropriety, is inimical to our democratic process, which is based on first past the post and not first into court. Close quote. My lords, though not emanating from Dominica, but largely impactful in Dominica and the rest of the region, of course, were his lordship's clear and definitive judgments in relation to the court's jurisdiction to grant prejudgment interest. These judgments were in the cases of Adamovsky et al. Versus Andrei Malitsky et al., followed soon after by Stedroy Matthew versus Garner O'Neill. In these cases, the Court of Appeals settled this troubling matter once and for all in the judgments of Justice of Appeal as he then was, Justice of Appeal Michel as he then was. The court affirmed the court's jurisdiction to grant such interest. This principle has now recently been applied by the Court of Appeal in Dominica and is now settled law thanks to the leading judgments of His Lordship, Justice Mario Michel. My lords, my ladies, this is just a small fragment out of a kaleidoscope of cases and judgments, all of which stand as a testament not just to Chief Justice Michel's intellectual edge and understanding of the law in almost all areas, but to his wise thinking and ability to articulate complex legal concepts with clarity and precision. Acting Chief Justice Michel, your career has unequivocally been marked by excellence. As far as the duty that all citizens carry of giving service to their country, your Lordship has done your part and more. No doubt your Lordship will continue in this path. As your Lordship embarks on whatever new chapter you may pursue, we, the members of the Dominica Bar, extend our heartfelt gratitude for your Lordship's service. We wish your Lordship a long, happy, and fulfilling retirement, filled with good health, joy, God's richest blessings, and the company of loved ones. My Lords, if these are my short remarks, and I do thank you for the opportunity to have spoken this afternoon, if it pleases the court.
Thank you, Ms. Didier. From St. Kitts and Nevis, we will now have Ms. Curlin Merchant.
Thank you, my lady. May it please the court. I wish to adopt the protocol already established. However, allow me to recognize His Lordship, the Honorable Mario Michel, Chief Justice, and his family. I bring greetings from the St. Kitts and Nevis Bar Association. His Lordship, the Honorable Mario Michel, Chief Justice Acting, has led a distinguished judicial career characterized by intellectual clarity, humility, and unwavering dedication to justice. What sets His Lordship apart is the breadth of his service, reaching far beyond the courtroom and into the very heart of our communities. In his years on the bench, His Lordship not only delivered sound and thoughtful judgments, some of which have been mentioned during this sitting, but His Lordship also recognized that justice must begin with understanding. His Lordship understood that for democracy to thrive, its people, especially its young people, must know their rights, their responsibilities, and the role of the law in their lives. That is why we recall with deep admiration his championing of the Justice in Schools project, a visionary initiative that brought the judiciary into classrooms and brought the law to life for thousands of students. His Lordship did not merely support this project from a distance, he actively participated. He spoke to students, visited schools, and answered their questions, not from behind a bench, but face to face, and from all accounts, with warmth and genuine interest. These visits have no doubt left lasting impressions on the students and the community. We are familiar with the public education lecture series he initiated and inspired, another bold step in demystifying the law and making the courts more accessible to the ordinary citizen. We were honored that the first of such lecture was held on St. Kitts and delivered by our very own Attorney General and Minister of Justice and former Bar President Garth Wilkin under the theme Justice Without Borders, the Legal Practitioner's Perspective and the ECSC Reality. Through these lectures, His Lordship reaffirmed that justice does not belong to judges and lawyers alone. It belongs to the people. Such efforts require more than intellect. They require vision, compassion, and a deep belief in public service. These qualities have defined His Lordship's career and enriched our judiciary in ways that will echo for generations. As we mark the close of his formal judicial duties, we will remember you, sir, as an educator, a reformer, a mentor, and a public servant of the highest order. To His Lordship, on behalf of the Council and members of the St. Kitts and Nevis Bar Association, we say thank you. Thank you for the judgments that clarified our laws. Thank you for the leadership that guided our courts. And thank you for the time you took to sit with students, to speak with citizens, and to make the law not only heard, but understood. In your retirement, we wish you peace, we wish you rest, and joy in the years ahead. May it please the court.
From St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we next have Ms. Sherlan Barnwell.
Lady, may it please the court. Permit me to respectfully adopt the protocol already established with special acknowledgement to His Lordship, Honorable Mario Michel, Chief Justice, and his family. My lords, my ladies, it is with honor and great pleasure I stand before you on behalf of our association myself at this special sitting to express our warmest thoughts and prayers in tribute to and in celebration of Acting Chief Justice Michel in his lordship's transition from the world of work to a life of greater sustained leisure, joy, and peace. We hope and pray that with retirement, his lordship will deeply and blissfully enjoy nature in all of its glory and wonder. At this point, I join the sentiments and noted exceptional contribution of Chief Justice Michel to the administration of justice presented before me, and would like to pay tribute to his lordship with a poem. This poem, titled "Chapter Begins" by Julie Herbert. Retirement calls, a gentle chime, a gift of precious new from time. No more the rush of work the grind, just freedom now, pure and kind. The hobbies waiting on the shelf now can be enjoyed yourself. The garden blooms beneath your care, the painter's brush, your canvas fair. Projects paused by work's demand now take shape beneath your hand. A book to write, a song to play, a dream pursued by light of day. But more than just our own delight, there's time to spread your wings in flight, to volunteer, to lend a hand, to help another make a stand. In giving back, you'll further find your way, enriching more lives along the way. The world is brighter for your touch. The time and care mean so much. For this chapter, bright and new, there's so much waiting for you. Embrace it all, the big and small. Retirement is one of the best gifts of all. Chief Justice Michel, you committed more than 15 meaningful years of service as guardian of justice on the bench. And we thank you from the depths of our hearts. You and your work will forever be respected and be deemed of true value. With courage and God's grace, happy, healthy retirement from the St. Vincent and Grenadines Bar Association. May it please the court.
Thank you, Ms. Barnwell. We will now hear from Mrs. Diana Thomas Hunt on behalf of the OECS Bar Association.
My lords, may I respectfully adopt the protocol already established. With your leave, however, may I recognize and refer for the last time to my Lord Chief Justice. I would also wish to recognize the people who have contributed to your Lordship's career and made the sacrifices to us, his wife, Joanne, his children, especially his son, Fidel, who's here with us, his sister, Elder, and his several brothers who are here as well. The OECS Bar Association, my lords, is deeply honored to be given the opportunity to put on record its gratitude for the remarkable career of his lordship, the Honorable Mario Michel, as he retires from his role as Chief Justice and Justice of Appeal of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. During his short tenure, Chief Justice Michel recognized the importance of public understanding of the judicial system and therefore carried into the post of Chief Justice with him his unwavering commitment to education, which he has demonstrated throughout his life. Immediately upon his appointment, he initiated a comprehensive public education program aimed at removing the shroud that is the justice system, its court processes, and thereby enhancing accessibility to the justice system, particularly among students and young citizens. I myself, my lords, have personal experience recently at the Youth Symposium of the eagerness with which the youth of our region, and in St. Lucia in particular, have received and reflected and matched his lordship's own enthusiasm for public judicial education. It should come as no surprise that his lordship managed in a 12-month period to meet his goal to touch each of our jurisdictions to commence the process of recultivating the respect for the judicial system and institutions in the youth that our societies have been fast losing. The OECS Bar is an institution which itself is dedicated to continuing legal education. The OECS Bar therefore commends to this court that the steps already commenced by this Chief Justice be adopted by initiating, together with the Ministries of Education, the development within school curricula of courses dedicated to teaching the youth about our judicial system. My lords, the OECS Bar, as always, is behind the court 100%. And I am sure that I speak for all the bar associations when I say that we are committed and we can be relied on to be guest lecturers or tutors on those courses whenever they are implemented. My lords, Chief Justice Michel's journey to the apex of our judiciary is distinguished by a unique blend of legal acumen and public service. His public service brought a wealth of experience to the bench. Justice Michel has therefore been known, and this is from evidence, as a patient, pragmatic, and fearless judge. We say he was patient because he allowed litigants to air their grievances without straying too far from the issues at hand. He was pragmatic because he sought to do justice, even in cases where there were no clear legal solutions. He was fearless because he readily documented his dissent from the majority view. Justice Michel's judicial philosophy emphasized clarity, fairness, and adherence to legal principles. His judgments, as you have heard, have not only shaped regional jurisprudence, but have also withstood scrutiny at the highest appellate levels. And so Chief Justice Michel's tenure has left an indelible mark on the Eastern Caribbean's legal framework. His dedication to judicial efficiency, transparency, and public engagement has set a benchmark for future leaders. As we bid farewell to Chief Justice Michel in his official capacity, the OECS Bar Association wishes to express our deepest gratitude for his service and contributions. His legacy will continue to inspire and guide the judiciary, the legal community, and I dare say, the community as a whole in the years to come. Your Lordship, your unwavering commitment to justice and the rule of law is to be emulated. Unless I can be of further assistance, my Lady President, if it pleases the court.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Thomas Hunt. It has been said that when a man retires and time is no longer a matter of urgent importance, It is then that his colleagues generally present him with a watch. I say that only to warn the Chief Justice of the necessary time constraints we have this evening. I now present to you the man of the moment, the acting Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, the Honorable Mario Ramon Fidel Michel.
Thank you, my dear sister. Governor General of St. Lucia, Sir Cyril Errol Charles, and Lady Charles. Her Excellency, the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, present virtually, Ms. Sylvanie Burton. Also present virtually, I'm informed, is His Excellency Sir Rodney Williams, Governor General of Antigua and Barbuda, and a person whom I claim as a friend. Colleague Justices of Appeal, puisne judges, and masters of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, whether present virtually or in person. Attorney General of St. Lucia, Honorable Leslie Mondesi, who is present in person, and other attorneys general who are present virtually. General Counsel of the OECS Commission, Mr. Dwight Lay, also present in person, I'm told. Other distinguished attendees already acknowledged by my dear sister, Justice of Appeal Margaret Price Finley. Members of the Inner Bar and Outer Bar, present virtually or in person. My wife, my children, my sisters and brothers, and I mean my biological sisters and brothers. Other family members, friends, other invited guests, court staff, and all others present virtually or in person at this special sitting of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. I know that you have already heard 15 speeches, and you're probably thinking that this one will be the long one, which will keep you here well after 4 on a Friday afternoon. But be assured that I do not propose to detain you further for more than probably about 10 minutes. I was appointed by the Judicial and Legal Services Commission as acting Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court on 5th May 2024, with my acting appointment after 2 extensions set to expire on 19th January 2026. However, I decided to retire from my substantive office as a Justice of Appeal and consequently as acting Chief Justice as of May 5th, 2025, which is the anniversary of my appointment as acting Chief Justice. I am hoping that my retirement will help to clear the path to a unanimous decision of the OECS heads of government on a permanent appointment to the office of Chief Justice. At the outset, I want to thank the Judicial and Legal Services Commission for their appointment of me to act as Chief Justice and for the total cooperation and support that I've gotten from the members of the Commission since my first appointment as acting Chief Justice and ex officio the Chairman of the Commission. Let me now thank everyone in attendance, whether virtually or in person, for your presence at this special sitting this afternoon to bid me farewell from the bench of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. To those who paid tribute, not just by your presence,
but so too by your words spoken in tribute to me. I am humbled and honored by your tributes. I know too that there are other members of the bench and the bar who wish to speak, but the organizing committee sought to ensure that the special sitting would not exceed 2 hours, so that the list of speakers had to be regulated and restricted. To those who wished to, but did not get to speak, I thank you for your kind thoughts, even though not verbalized. It's been over 16 years. 7 months as an acting High Court judge in Anguilla and Grenada, 3 years as a resident High Court judge in Antigua and Barbuda, and 12 years and 8 months on the Court of Appeal, with the last of these years serving in an acting capacity as the Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. These 16+ years constitute the longest span of the 3 capacities in which I have worked since leaving law school in June of 1984, the other 2 being as a lawyer in private practice at the bar in St. Lucia for nearly 15 years, and as a parliamentarian and government minister in St. Lucia for a little over 9.5 years. And I just want to ask your leave. My throat is a little troubling, so if you hear every now and then a little irritation in the throat, it's not that I'm about to cry or anything. In all 3 of these capacities, I've tried always to be a hard worker, an honest man, and a person of high integrity. If ever I fell short, even slightly, in any of these capacities, it could only have been when I didn't work as hard as I could have at a particular task. Along the way, I served in the legislative branch of the government of St. Lucia as a parliamentary representative and leader of government business in the House of Assembly, in the executive branch as Deputy Prime Minister, and in the judicial branch as acting Chief Justice. At the end of these 3 segments of my journey, I harbor no regrets or disappointments, either for holding the offices that I did or for not holding those that I might have. It was good enough for me that I gave it all my best. So I thank everyone whom I worked with in my 41-year working life thus far, especially on this occasion, the judges and the court staff with whom I worked in my 16+ years on the bench of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. I must specifically mention Chief Justice Sir Hugh Rollins, under whom I served as a High Court judge, and Chief Justice Dame Janice Pereira, under whom I served as a Justice of Appeal. I thank too Justices of Appeal Margaret Price Finley, Honorable Vicky Ann Ellis, Honorable Trevor Ward, Honorable Eddie Ventos, Honorable Esco Henry, and Honorable Gerard Ferrara, KC, with whom I presently sit on the Court of Appeal bench, and Justices Davidson Baptiste, Louise Blenman, Gertel Tom, and Paul Webster, KC, with whom I previously sat on the Court of Appeal bench. To the lawyers throughout the 9 member states and territories of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, including those who appeared in but are not residents of the states and territories served by the court, I thank you as well for the respect which you showed to me and to my colleagues on the bench, at least most of the time. I will never forget the court staff with whom I worked in Anguilla, Grenada, Antigua and Barbuda, and St. Lucia, who were almost always cooperative and supportive. I must make special mention, though, of the staff at the headquarters of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court in St. Lucia, with whom I worked in the last 12 years and 8 months. The Chief Registrar, formerly Mrs. Kimberly Snack Fulgens, and now Mrs. Michel John Thibbles, and the rest of the legal and registry staff, and the court administrator, Mr. Gregory Gerard, and the rest of the management and administrative staff. My police orderlies over the years have always been good to me and protective of me, but I must specifically single out an officer who has worked with me for 9.5 years as a dedicated and devoted orderly, Constable Derek Edward. Constable Edward, Constable Edward, I wish you all the best in your journey from May the 5th. Of course, without a supportive family, work and life generally can be much more difficult than they need be. And I was lucky to be blessed with a supportive family. So thank you to my wife, to my children, to my siblings, most of whom are here, and posthumously to my mother for the parts that they each played in my life's journey. I acknowledge also my friends and other family members, including several cousins, nieces, nephews, grandnieces, and grandnephews, but no grandchildren. But no pressure, Fidel at the bar in St. Lucia, or Mary Grace at the bank in Canada. I can wait. I close with a plea and a pledge. My plea is that the next Chief Justice will continue the public education program, which we started in September last year, and which I believe was beginning to bear fruit in demystifying the court system in the Eastern Caribbean and educating particularly our youth and students about the court system in general and the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court as an institution. We've done a few very useful things in these last 7 months, including the visits to the community colleges in all the 9 member states and territories of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, the public lecture series, the Youth Leaders Symposium, and the broadcast and posting of a wide-ranging interview of me by a media professional in St. Lucia. But there's still a lot to be done, which I hope our next Chief Justice will facilitate and participate in. Fortunately, the court has an information services manager who has been working with me on the implementation of the public education program. And the chief registrar and the court administrator are very much on board with that program. It appears too that there has been significant appreciation of it and support for it by the members of the bench and the bar. This, therefore, should make it not too difficult for a new Chief Justice to continue with the program. My pledge is a pledge of assistance to whoever is my successor in the office of Chief Justice, that if at all I can be of some assistance to you as a result of the year's experience which I had in this office, please feel free to call me. And I mean free. This is not a bid for consultancy work. Thank you once again to everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chief Justice. That brings us to the end of this sitting. Yes, the bailiff is here. Could you do the necessary? Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the exit of their excellencies, Sir Errol, Cyril Charles, and Lady Charles. Thank you. Those of you who are present with us, we invite you on the outside to join us for refreshments. Thank you.